Let's dive into Strapi, specifically the content type builder. If you want to master content structures in Strapi, this is the place to be.
One of the cool things about Strapi, it's what we call a headless CMS. Basically, it's like this engine working behind the scenes for all your content, serving it up through an API. What that means is you're not stuck with a specific front end, website, mobile app, anything you can think of.
So flexibility is key. But for our listeners out there, what exactly is a content type? And why is this builder so important in Strapi?
Okay, imagine building a house. You need a blueprint. Content types are basically the blueprints for your content in Strapi. And the content type builder, well, that's your architect studio where you design those blueprints.
Love that visual. Houses have different rooms, layouts. So how does that translate to content types?
That's a great point. Websites and apps have different types of content, just like a house, and each with a specific structure. In Strapi, we have two main types, collection types and single types. Think of collection types like a cookie cutter. You can create multiple entries, all using that same shape.
So let's say a blog. Each article is a cookie, stamped out with the same content type cutter.
Exactly. Or a product catalog. Each product gets its own entry, but they all follow that structure defined by the product content type.
Got it. And single types, are those like those unique rooms, living room, bathroom?
Yeah, you only need one of those. Homepage or an About Us page, these would be single types, one-off pieces of content.
Okay, so we've got the blueprints. We
Yeah.
understand the types of rooms in our content house. But how do we actually build these content types? Is that where the builder comes in?
Yeah, it is. Think of it like your Strapi workshop. It's developer only. You define the structure of your content, not the actual content itself. It's all about setting the stage before the actors come on.
Oh, okay, so we're the stagehands,
Mm-hmm.
getting everything ready, the lights, the props. But the performance comes later.
Exactly. Now, within each content type, we have these things called fields. These are like the specific attributes of your content, so like a form with different input fields. Each one captures a different piece of information.
That makes sense. Let's dig into some of those field types. See what kind of tools we got in this workshop. We got text fields, right?
Yeah. Titles, short descriptions, anything that's plain text. You can choose between short text and long text, depending on how much you need.
All right, what about when we want to add some images or formatting? Rich text, is that right?
Exactly. This is for longer form content. And Strapi gives you two options, blocks and markdown. Blocks is more visual, kind of like a word processor. And then markdown uses text formatting.
So blocks would be for users who want that. What you see is what you get. And markdown is more for, like, coders.
Yeah, you got it. It really depends on your team and how comfortable they are.
All right, so that covers words. But what about numbers? I imagine Strapi can handle those too.
Of course. You've got the number field. Choose different formats, integer, float, decimal, product prices, quantities, anything like that.
This is starting to feel like we've got a well-stocked toolbox here. Dates,
Yeah.
event calendar.
We've got that. It's called the date field. Just the date, just the time, or both. Lots of flexibility.
All right, this is getting exciting. Building up our arsenal of fields. I'm already imagining the possibilities, but we're just getting started, right?
Oh, yeah, there's a lot more. Media fields for images and videos, Boolean fields for true-false values, even JSON fields for more complex data.
Relation field.
Yeah.
That sounds interesting. That's how we connect different content types together.
Exactly. This is where the magic starts to happen. Let's say you have an article content type and an author content type. With a relation field, you can link them together. That way, each article knows who wrote it.
So it's not just isolated pieces of content. We can build a web of information.
Exactly. And we have more specialized fields like email to store and validate email addresses, password for storing passwords securely, and even UID for generating unique IDs.
Wow, this is powerful. Can we customize these fields even further? I'm sure different content has different requirements.
Absolutely. Strapi has a ton of field configuration options. You can make fields required, make sure values are unique, set default values, even apply validation rules to control the data.
This is great. Complete control over how content is structured. But what about components and dynamic zones? Are those just more advanced fields?
Yeah, they deserve a deep dive of their own, maybe next time. But basically, they offer even more flexibility. Building reusable content structures. Think of them as power tools in our Strapi workshop to build more dynamic experiences.
All right, adding that to my list. We've covered a lot in this content type builder workshop. So far, what's the key takeaway for our listeners?
I'd say you now have a basic understanding of content types in Strapi. We've seen how collection and single types let us structure different kinds of content. and we've explored all the different fields and configuration options, you're well on your way to becoming a content architect.
That's a fantastic foundation. But building a structure is one thing. What about user experience? How do we make sure the content manager is easy and intuitive to use?
That's a great question, and it leads us to a whole other exciting aspect of Strapi, the ability to customize the content manager interface itself. You know, it's funny, we spend all this time on content types, but we forget about the people who actually use them, the content creators.
That's true. A well-structured content type is no good if it's a pain to work with. It's got to be user-friendly, intuitive, maybe even a little fun.
Right. And luckily, Strapi gives us the tools to do just that. We talked about fields and how to configure them, but there's a whole other layer of the content manager interface.
Okay, tell me more. What can we customize?
Think about that editing screen. You can rearrange fields, group them into sections using tabs or accordions, even hide fields that aren't relevant to all users.
Oh, so if I have a junior editor, they only need to update basic info. I could create a simplified view for them, and senior editors could have access to more advanced settings.
That's the idea. You can tailor the experience based on user roles and permissions.
That's really cool. What about look and feel? Can we make it match our brand?
Of course. Strapi's really flexible with styling. You can change colors, fonts, layouts, pretty much anything with CSS. Make it an extension of your brand.
This is sounding less like a CMS and more like a custom platform. But hold on, what about accessibility? We need to make sure everyone can use the content manager.
You're right, that's crucial. And I'm glad to say that Strapi is designed with accessibility in mind. The content manager follows WCAG standards. Those are guidelines for making web content accessible.
So we're talking about keyboard navigation, screen reader compatibility,
Yeah.
alternative text, good color contrast.
Exactly, all essential elements of inclusive design. Strapi makes sure the content manager is usable by as many people as possible.
I love that. It really empowers content creators.
Speaking of empowerment, let's not forget about plugins and extensions. Strapi has a great community that's always developing new tools.
Plugins, tell me more. What can they do?
You name it. SEO optimization, advanced media management, integrations with translation platforms.
Yes.
So many possibilities.
So if there's a feature we need that's not built in, there's probably a plugin for it.
Probably, yeah. And if not, you can even build your own. Strapi's plugin system is very flexible.
This is incredible. We've gone from structuring content to the interface, to plugins, a whole new dimension of content management. But for our listeners out there, why should they care? How does all of this impact their work?
It's all about control. Control over your content, control over your workflow, control over your digital experiences. You build the exact CMS you need. You're not settling.
I love that. It's not just about technology, it's about empowerment.
Exactly. Developer, content creator, business owner. Strapi puts you in control. It gives you the tools to build something unique.
Okay, I'm sold. What haven't we covered yet? Any hidden gems?
Well, there's one feature people often overlook. It's really powerful, though. Custom API endpoints.
Wait, hold on. We're not limited to the default API. We can create our own.
You got it.
Yeah.
This opens up so many possibilities, like a secret backdoor to your content. You can connect with other systems in ways you might not have imagined.
Okay, can we get a specific example? How would someone use this?
Imagine you're building a website with user-submitted reviews. You want to display them on your site, but also share them with a third-party service that analyzes sentiment.
I'm with you. How does a custom API endpoint help with this?
You could create an endpoint, so whenever a new review comes in, it automatically sends the content to that sentiment analysis service.
Oh, I see. So instead of just displaying the review, I can actually understand what people are feeling, like if they're positive or negative.
That's it. And then you can use that analysis to trigger other actions, like personalized emails.
This is like a superpower. We're not just managing content anymore. We're orchestrating a whole system.
I like that. Strapi becomes the central hub for everything.
This is amazing.
Yeah.
But let's be real. This all requires some coding, right?
There's a bit of a learning curve, yeah. Some JavaScript, some API knowledge. But Strapi has great documentation and examples.
That's good. So Strapi grows with you. You start with the basics
Yeah.
and explore the advanced features as you go.
Absolutely. That's what makes it so exciting. Beginner or expert, there's always something new to learn.
We've covered so much. Content types, the interface, plugins, and now custom API endpoints.
It's been a lot.
For our listeners who might be overwhelmed, what's the one thing they should remember about Strapi?
I'd say Strapi empowers you to build exactly what you need. No limitations. Simple blog or complex web app, Strapi gives you the flexibility and control.
I love that. I think it's time to wrap up our Strapi deep dive. Hopefully everyone listening have a better understanding of this tool.
I hope so too. And remember, this is just the beginning. There's a whole community out there to support you.
Absolutely. So dive in, experiment, see what you can create. The possibilities are endless.
Happy building, everyone.
And that's a wrap. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into Strapi. We'll see you next time for another exciting adventure.